So yeah, you had a lot more room back in the day to kind of work around and sort of get in. The engine was kind of smaller, and the engine bay seems to be bigger. So when you're getting access to the engine mounts to take them off, it was a bit of an easier task. So I had to then go find the right video, which ended up being a video where he was working on a course of D, which is like kind of like 2015, I think it was, when he was working on. So that had the same engine mounts, and I'll show you what the engine mounts are, and I will show you the kind of like the process of what I've got to do in order just to change this pump. Now it shouldn't take me too long. I've got to get reorganised again. I did kind of put the car back together yesterday, so now I've got to kind of go back to reversing it and taking it, putting it back on its axle stands, jacking on the engine. I've got to take the wheel off again, and I've got to take part of the arch lining out. In order, the reason I've got to take the arch lining out is because there's a bolt. So where the engine mounts are, where that's bolted into the side of the engine, side of the engine block itself, there is a bolt which there's in fact there's 3 bolts in it, and 2 of them are inaccessible if you don't jack the car up or drop the engine down. Sorry, if you don't jack the engine up or drop the engine down to allow them to come out freely. But just because of where they are, so basically in the engine bay, where the engine mounts are, if you take the bolts out, one will come out, which is fine, but the other 2, they'll just go straight into the side of the engine, and there's not enough room to then mess about the bracket that you need to remove in order to gain access to the water pump pulley, which then you need to be able to get to the tensioner belt tensioner in order to release the belt, so you can then take the pulley off and everything else like that. So I watched the video in the right order and process on how to do that, so I'm more confident now that I can actually just get it done today and replace the pump. You know, I think it's always worth, if you've got a leak in the water pump and you don't know, it could be the hose, it might be the gasket. If you had a failed thermostat, which that will come kind of like at some point over the weekend, hopefully. You know, if it hopefully it'd be here by Friday, end of the week. So basically, within that, to get this done, because that failed and it put extra pressure, it could have blown the gasket, could have put extra pressure on the coolant system, which is what caused the leak in the first place. So yeah, you know, I might not have had to have changed the whole water pump, but I just think for best practice, for what it was costing, and for the part and everything else, it was just better to replace it and put a new one on. At least then it's had a new thermostat to go with the new pump, which should give it a lot more longevity anyway. So all of that's got to be logged down, what it was done, the date it was done, and I think I've got to find get the manufacturer details and the part details, and then just make a record of the date, today's date, to then put with a service history. So anytime you do any kind of servicing on the car, you should record that service so that it goes with your service history. It doesn't have to be anything kind of professional. It just has to have the part that was used, like the part number, the date that you did the service, and I think that's it. I think that's the main details. If it's liquids or anything like that, it's the liquid, the type of liquid, oils, what oil you use, what consistency, 5W30 or 5W40 or 10W50 or any of that, to record that. Yet again, the quantities, the amounts that you put in, and obviously then the date there as well that was done. You know, so anytime that I'm going to do a service on the car, I'll make those records that'll go in with it, so then it's got a full service history. But I'm not too, that's just the basics. That's just basic principle of keeping a decent service log. Um, it also helps as well if you have a like kind of like everywhere that you keep all your car documents together, that you have kind of all the invoices. You keep hold of the invoices, put them in the folder, because that'll have the information on it as well, plus also the date that it was kind of delivered. So if you forgot to record when you did it, it gives some hint of around about the same time that that was done. So yeah, that's kind of important to do that. But now it should take me no more than probably about a couple of hours to actually get this part done. And then I've just got to wait for the thermostat to arrive. That'll only take, that's literally like plug and play. There's 3 bolts, which are here. So there's 3 bolts to put in, and that's it. There's a little spring. There's like a little spring clip that goes in to hold the hose onto the thermostat, and then the thermostat itself just bolts onto the pump. So that will end up bolting onto this part. It's exactly the same shape as that. So yeah. The only thing to really make a note of as well, if you are going to change a water pump, it's not a big job. It's not a major job. In regards of something that you can do yourself. I mean, if you're not comfortable, always take it to a garage and get a garage to do it. You might have a certain plan where that's all looked after anyway for a yearly plan or that you pay into and that. But I don't, and I can't afford garage prices. So it's not adverse for me to actually use those skills in order to be able to do what I can myself. Generally it's nuts and bolts, so it's not that tasking for me to do it. So yeah, it's not a big job, so I've got to take the wheel caps off again, crack the nuts, jack the car up, get the stands back underneath it, take the wheel off, take the arch lining off, pop the bonnet, then put a jack under the it'll go under the oil sump, which is basically the very base of the engine. Couple of blocks of wood under there, just to spread the weight, and then jack it up to the sump, just to take the weight. Not to you don't want to jack up too much that the whole car is actually sitting on it. You want to leave them sitting on the stand. So it's just to the point before you can, so you can't move the jack in or out or move it about, and then go back, remove the engine mounts again, and this time, before I even start loosening the bolts, is I'm going to then drop the engine down to get to that bolt on the bottom. I think that's the easiest thing to do, is drop that down first, because you're gonna be on the floor, and working on the floor is not necessarily like the easiest thing to do, especially when you're trying to get a spanner up there and work from that. But once the bolt's loose enough, it should come out fairly easy. It should come out fairly easy. I think they did yesterday. When I loosened them up yesterday, took them out a bit. You can literally just take them out by hand, but they are very long. So what I want to do is remove the bolts, remove the bolt on the bottom first, take that out, and then I can then jack the engine up. I can actually go up a lot higher than I did yesterday, which would have been kind of handy to kind of know that. That's kind of where I lost the confidence. It's like how much to go with it and all of that. I didn't want to end up breaking anything or risk breaking anything, so I ended up just putting it back together and did a bit more research, found another video, another tutorial, and feel a lot more confident being able to do it this time. So then I can just get to the two bolts at the top once it's jacked up, to remove the bracket, and also while I'm there, is I'll be able to get to the pulleys and everything else a lot easier as well. The tensioner is quite hard. You know, it's you've got to be able to put quite a bit of effort to pull that for the tensioner, so you can release the belt. Once when it's under tension, before I've even got and dealt with a tensioner, is to crack there's three bolts that hold the pulley on to the pump, which then those goes through this bit here. Basically, there's those three positions that hold the pulley on. Take them or crack them so they're loose, and then release the tension, and then remove the pulley because it'd still be under a little bit of tension. But remove the pulley, take the bolts out. It should be able to slide them out by hand. Should be the hand loose, and remove the whole thing. So then it'll come off a lot easier. So that will give me the access to the pump itself, and then I'm going to leave that on the top of the engine cover. And when I take the bolts out, because they are different size bolts, you have to put them back in the right place. So it's important to get them back in the right place. So as they come out, I'm just going to slot them in the places where they come out into the new one. So as soon as one comes out, it's going back in the same place on the new one, until I've down to the last bolt and got that off, and then everything should be in its place. Once I've got that off, remove the old gasket, make sure it's all clean around where it's going to go, make sure it's all nice and prepared. The whole system's drained anyway, so as the system's been drained, don't have to worry about that. Probably might lose a little bit of liquid out the mount where the pump sits. There's probably still a little bit in there, but that's fine. Just stick a bucket kind of like underneath where it's going to fall, and most of it will be caught in the bucket. Clean it up, make sure it's a decent surface mounting, and then I've got a new gasket. Just put the gasket onto the new pump with all the bolts in place, and then just go about setting it up and rebolting everything up. So it shouldn't take more than a couple of hours. I hope it doesn't take more than a couple of hours. 3 at most. It's still pretty cold out there. It's not really nice working out in the cold and that, so I don't want to be out there too long doing this. But I know the tools I need, and everything's kind of ready from yesterday. I haven't really cleared up at all, apart from the stuff that I put back away, the jacks away and everything else like that. So I've got to just pull all that out there, get it all set up, and then I'll show you kind of like what I'm talking about, where the engine mounts are, what's got to be taken off, what needs to be used, and if you ever fancied kind of doing this yourself, you could. So I'm going to crack on, and then I'll be back in a moment.